Let's start off with an unfortunate note. That is the passing of Darren Drozdov at the age of 54. His family put out a statement citing natural causes. And Darren Drozdov, sadly, many people are going to remember, his unfortunate injury back in October of 1999, where he was on a SmackDown taping doing a match with D'Lo Brown at the Nassau Coliseum, in which it was a power bomb gone wrong, and he ended up coming down on his head, breaking two vertebrae, and he was paralyzed from the neck down for the remainder of his 24 years. And at least, not somebody that I knew, but at least whenever you heard from this guy, and he stayed with the company for years doing stuff online, writing for the website and magazines, always projected a very positive outlook, never held any blame towards D'Lo Brown for the injury. And in some ways, it did remind you a bit of Magnum TA in the sense that here is somebody that had this life-altering injury that ended their in-ring career, but seemed to be not letting it disrupt their life in such a negative way that many people, I think, quite understandably could fall to. But this was someone that seemed to have a very positive outlook on life. And to be paralyzed at the age of 30, you just think about that when you have so much life ahead of you and your career comes to an end on top of it. He was somebody that did not have a very lengthy career. He had just started in early 98, and you'll remember he was involved in the Road Warriors angle and the whole deal with Hawk when they were kind of exploiting him and his personal issues on television. And Drozdov was designed to sort of be the wedge between him and Animal and becoming like the new Road Warrior. And then once that got scrapped, he was presented as just Droz, and he had a brief team with Prince Albert. And the other, I would say, kind of noteworthy scene you remember of him, Way, would have been Beyond the Mat.
He's going to puke.
This guy must have been like Vince McMahon must have just fallen in love with this guy. And the story is, he played several games with the Denver Broncos, and in an infamous scene on Monday Night Football, vomited on the football. And thus, puke was going to be his gimmick in WWF. And this led to a memorable scene in Beyond the Mat where Darren Drozdov was unable to vomit on command inside of Vince McMahon's office as Vince McMahon, the carnival barker, is goading him on. A very famous soundbite that I'm not going to recreate, but I'm thinking everyone that is listening and watching this has seen it many a time.
Yeah. Really unfortunate news. He's somebody who I feel has been part of like the wrestling world for a long time. At least as part of my fandom, as maybe one of the worst examples of the dangers of this sport and really what could go wrong in any sort of instance. There's been a lot of conversation this week about risk taking. This was a routine power bomb that like D'Lo Brown has done many a time. It was, a running Liger bomb, I believe. And for whatever reason on this night, it just did not go right. And it's just the constant reminder of just the incredible risk that these people take on a daily basis, providing this form of entertainment.
Which sometimes we forget about that, or we at least don't. Sadly, you sometimes get a reminder of it. And yeah, this week we've been talking about it a lot. And just personally, on Thursday night, I was at an independent show here in Toronto, and there was a wrestler that took like just a German off a second turnbuckle, and the match had to be stopped. Like he was motionless, and ended up getting up after, but he was motionless for several minutes, and the match was called off. And just watching this in front of me, it was like very concerning that and I'm thinking of how many riskier spots I saw on that very show, much less just this week of the different wrestling that I saw. And sometimes it is just basic things that we see so many times that just one slight mistake, and it can be the difference between somebody being able to get up from that injury or not. So Darren Drozdov, somebody that seemed to make the best out of a really terrible situation in 1999. It's a sad story. This is someone that required around the clock care. And, you didn't hear too much from him over these last number of years. He was featured in Dark Side of the Ring in the Brawl for All episode because he went all the way and faced Bradshaw in the in the Brawl for All. So he took part in that, taking on Road Warrior Hawk, Savio Vega, and then losing to Bradshaw in the semifinals.
Yes,
tournament.
A tournament we've covered pretty in depth, I would say, in previous podcasts.
Yes, a tournament where a man with a blinded eye was allowed to compete in a real fight on national television. But that was 1998 for you in WWF. So rest in peace to Darren Drozdov, and our best to his family and friends. Very, very unfortunate news, and a very young age when you're talking about someone at the age of 54 as well.